Welcome back to Conservative Conversations. I am your host, Reid.
And I'm Frank.
Today we're going to be talking all about Donald Trump's big election victory, so let's get started. But before we do, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to hear an extra segment, you can become a paid subscriber through our podcast host, Red Circle. Well, to get started, obviously the big news since we last recorded our full episode is President Donald Trump is going to be president again. Going
right.
in the history books with Grover Cleveland. I wish I had a shirt with the two guys' faces on it. That'd be cool.
Yep. It's a huge political victory.
Oh, yeah,
huge.
big time. Swept the board. He won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College by a good number.
Yeah, 312 to 226.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty handily won race.
Well, and it's amazing, really. I mean, people everywhere are doing victory laps because, I mean, one of the greatest things, they were all prepared to say it, I'm sure, but if he would not have won the popular vote, they would be saying, we need to repeal the Electoral College and we need to, you see what I'm saying? So the fact that he won the popular vote is huge because it takes that argument away from them. They can't even argue that. And I think in another point that we'll probably get to later, we'll probably come back to that popular vote thing, but it's just so amazing, isn't it? I mean, it was so big. Too big to rig.
Right? Yeah. I mean, for the first couple of days afterwards, when I would listen to my little news briefing in the morning, I'd still be so excited when they'd say, Donald Trump's going to be the 47th president. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
That's right. He is our president-elect.
That's right.
It's awesome. And how great for J.D. Vance, who's here in Ohio,
Right.
to be vice president, first Marine to be vice president.
I wonder if he's the youngest. I haven't heard that yet, if he is.
I'm not sure. But Trump has already also, been naming some people to some things, and he said that his female campaign manager was going to be his chief of staff.
Yeah.
Which is going to be the first in our nation's history.
Right. Talk about,
surrounding himself with strong women.
Right. That I completely forgot about that. But yeah, that and I was gonna say a diverse cabinet. Because I also heard I forget the gentleman's last name, but Rick something or another. I wish I remember his last name. I think he was in like national security or some related department like that. I believe he's been mentioned of possibly coming back. If I'm not mistaken, if this is the correct fellow that I'm thinking about, is gay, and obviously first female chief of staff, bringing back people, other staff members who are gay. That's pretty diverse. I mean, there's plenty of others. Group of people. And the left surprised themselves on that.
Well, yeah, and you were telling me earlier that he's considering Ben Carson again.
Yeah.
Who's African American, obviously, or black, whichever you prefer.
Sure.
He also apparently overnight or just very recently named that Tom Holman was going to be his border czar.
Yeah.
Which he's keeping the same title as Kamala.
Right, and one of the best parts is that he didn't run campaigning on filling a diverse cabinet like that. He just picks those people because he believes they're good for the job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ben Carson, he is such a bright guy, and I think it's a great idea to put him back at HUD because he was already there and was doing good things, so he can keep those going. You know what I mean?
Right.
It might be easy or easier for him to steer it back towards the right direction.
The only thing I don't quite get about him being in HUD is he's a brain surgeon. That's housing and urban development. You'd think he'd be in HHS.
Yeah, but he chose to be a politician to do public good.
Yeah.
So he can run a program like HUD.
Right. I
and
mean,
run it
I'm certainly not
efficiently and
saying he
logically.
can't. It's just, when you think of his previous job, you think that's what, that's just what I would immediately think of would be his placement is Health and Human Services. But
I think he tells the story of how he grew up in that kind of housing and
right,
stuff.
that
and
makes
he
sense.
wanted to be able to help, people in sort of the same shoes that he
Right.
used to fill.
Right, I get that.
And I think it was something he was kind of passionate about. And I don't know, Ben's a good guy. And
Yeah, I'm not saying anything that he's not. It just surprises me that he's just not in HHS given his background. That's all.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
People have other interests, though,
No, I know. I get that.
But it'll be amazing to see what he gets done. And
Right.
I've heard some other things too. Like I found out that there's like some kind of rift between him and Mike Pompeo, which I didn't really know. I liked Mike, good solid Republican from Kansas. I thought he was a good guy. The way he stood up to Hillary Clinton in those the Benghazi hearings. I will never those will be ingrained in my memory forever, those hearings. And he did an amazing job of calling her out as being probably one of the worst secretaries of state in our nation's history. And he was rewarded for that and became the next Secretary of State, which I love. The way the tables can turn, sometimes here in America.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's unpleasant, but sometimes you really get some just desserts too.
Right.
And I always liked that. I liked Mike Pompeo for that. But I guess from what I've heard, Mike and Trump are not really on the same train necessarily anymore. Not that either think the other is a bad guy or anything.
Right, yeah.
But I guess the best way I've heard it put is that Trump's just surrounded himself with a sort of different circle of people this time. So,
right.
In some regards.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because he's talked about in some interviews that he's learned from last time he was in the office.
When I guess he really, wants to put an end to these wars and doesn't want to be backstabbed on, like withdrawals or de-escalations or defunding or, you know what I mean? Any of that.
Yeah. And he seems to already be making some inroads with that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what the number is,
like.
but I've heard that he's already talked to like 70-some odd world leaders, supposedly. People from Putin to, Zelensky to what's
Xi
his
Jinping.
name? Well, and I didn't hear Xi Jinping, so that's
I'm
news to me, but I believe it.
Guessing.
Well, Netanyahu. I know he talked to Netanyahu
Mm-hmm.
and, people like that. So I think it's pretty good. I mean, he's got some good ideas. It sounds like he's already ready to go. One of the things I was surprised by that I heard was that his people had been preparing for this scenario since August. And they've already, sort of got these short lists of candidates that they want to fill these positions and stuff. Like, I heard they're heavily considering Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. Which
I heard that too. That'd be pretty interesting.
I think it would be interesting, and it goes back to that diversity thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right?
I mean, Marco is what he is. He's a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
He especially started young.
Right. Well, he's been on the Foreign Intelligence Committee in the Senate for quite a while.
I know. I do think it's a good idea. That's what I was building up to. Is I still think he's got good energy to him. I think he's got a good face to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he looks good for America. He's a good representative abroad. I think it'd be good.
And one of the taglines of Kamala's campaign was the next generation or new generation.
Right.
And look at all the people that are surrounding Trump.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, all the names we've already mentioned, J.D. Vance, Senator Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, yeah.
All these next or new generation politicians, if you will.
Yeah. The other thing I heard him come out on the negative side, sort of, is I heard that he's not considering Nikki Haley for anything. Because I guess that he's really been pressured not to.
Huh.
But, you know, still a week ahead of the election, she was still out saying sort of negative stuff about Trump. So I sort of get that, why people would pressure him. You know, she did a lot of flip-flopping and a lot of sort of backstabbing to him. So I can see why people would be cautioning him heavily, like, don't keep her that close.
Right.
No matter what, you know, no matter what idiom you want to use, don't keep her around.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is what it is. That's politics. I mean, I don't really have a problem with Nikki Haley that much.
I think it just goes back to the sort of circle, the Steve Bannon, you know, he just got released like a couple days before the election, 10 days or 2 weeks, a fortnight before the election.
Sure.
And he supposedly is heavily involved in advising Trump about things. And I guess they're just really trying to stay away from these war hawk type people.
Right. Yeah, I think I heard Steve Miller is going to be coming back.
I believe that.
So it sounds like it might be shaping up to be a pretty good cabinet.
Absolutely.
One other rumor I heard was Congress lady from New York. What's the Stefanik?
Yeah.
Yeah. For the UN ambassador.
Well, that's just a possibility.
Right. Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen though, because depending on how tight the Congress is on the House, you know, they probably will keep her in the House because she's so effective in the House. And if it's real tight, they'll need her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I actually don't think it would be wise to promote her, especially being from New York, such a, you know, blue, but an important blue place.
Yeah. That makes sense. That was just one of the names I had heard recently floated around for a position.
Yes. Well, it has been floated around, and it would be a wise choice if things were. It just depends on what shakes out in the House.
Yeah, I guess that's the only races we're really still waiting for.
Yeah, the last I checked, it was 214, and we need 218 for a majority. So, but we've made huge progress in the House.
Yeah,
huge. I mean, one of the coolest things that I think this cycle, not just this whole oh, I'm sorry for hitting the microphone. I didn't mean to do that. Not just this whole repudiation of the Kamala Harris and Biden campaign that we've seen. You know, they were totally rejected.
Yeah.
But we've also seen one of the cool things that's happened is out in California. You know, 10 counties flipped red. And Gavin Newsom is really feeling it. They also passed that Prop 36 or whatever it was, that is a referendum on lowering the standards for prosecution on certain crimes like theft and such, you know. So it used to be like you could steal $1,000 worth of stuff and you wouldn't be prosecuted, but they've lowered that, and they've had a mandate in California. I mean, I don't know all the points, all the things that are revised, and you know what it requires the government to do, and what the counties are required to prosecute and whatever. But that was addressed big time, and it's a huge win because Gavin Newsom personally campaigned against this measure. He tried to keep it off the ballot in California. That failed. And then it passes in this huge majority. 10 counties flip. You know, he's like, I'm sure shaking in his boots because I bet he was thinking about doing a presidential run. You know, there's been a lot of speculation on that. Whether or not he'd go up against Biden in the last cycle, you know, this past cycle. And, going forward, a lot of people thought maybe he'd run in 2028 or whatever it's going to be. 2028.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he has to work with this new, more purple California.
Right. Well, it really seems like people are kind of waking up to a lot of the progressive policies and what it does to their lives and their communities.
Yes, which, I think it's interesting because we spoke to, what was his name? Goose?
Stretch Goose.
Stretch Goose.
Uh-huh.
And we were asking him questions about this very thing, about whether or not California would be going red. And we'd have to recall that, but I believe he said he didn't really see that sort of hope for California. Right. So this is huge. This is great.
Sure.
And hopefully it'll give people who maybe had that same sort of mentality. I'm not saying that it's wrong or bad or, anything. Right. But I think there was a lot of that mentality because you almost feel defeated being a Republican in such a blue place.
Right.
But look, maybe this will give them hope that they can keep it going. And, Ronald Reagan came out of California.
It was the birthplace of Ronald Reagan. Well, I don't know about birthplace, but that's where he came up from.
Yeah, so come on. I mean, there have been some great Republicans that have come out of California. Right. Stand up straight, be counted, and be proud, you know. It's amazing what's just happened in California.
Totally. It's amazing what happened, period, with all these elections.
Absolutely.
I mean, we regained the Senate. We're going to have a nice little majority in the Senate. I think the last count I heard is 53 seats.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it's going to stay 53 because I don't think Kari Lake's going to win.
No, I don't think so either. I'd be very surprised.
I've heard a lot of people giving false hope about that and saying that she's challenging it, and I've heard some things that I maybe would give some credence to if I knew a little bit more, but supposedly she's already filed a legal notice with one of the counties, probably Maricopa, because like on election night, the numbers updated. She's got the timestamps of the live ballot counts and the tallies for the numbers that needed to be counted. And the polls had already closed. Hours had gone by. And just it like updated from like 8. Don't quote me on the numbers, okay? Just this is for conceptual purposes. But like supposedly from like 8:03 to 8:05 a.m., let's say, or 4:03 to 4:08. I don't know what time. But it just updated. The count went from ballots needed to be counted went from a certain number to like, let's say 12,000 up to like 24,000 in like a 3-minute period. And she's like questioning like, where did these ballots come from and what the heck and how is this not? And that's the same kind of stuff that we saw in the last cycle.
Yeah.
And I might bring that up again. I mean, I'm not too familiar with this matter. I'm just saying that rumor's gone around. And I sort of believe it because somebody I follow was actually giving the timestamps and stuff. And he was speaking as if he said that he had a copy of the legal notice, like he had gotten a PDF of it or something. I don't know how. Because I tried to find it, but I didn't have great success finding it myself. But I don't really have reason to doubt this person that he had a copy of it. So I sort of believe it. And that is what we saw in the last cycle, you know? And I don't know if you've heard this, but the numbers, they've compared the numbers from like 2012, 2016, 2020, now. And in 2020, there was like an extra like 11 million votes for Biden that just otherwise cannot be accounted for in the charts. In 2020, there was like a ghost 11 million votes for Biden that doesn't bear out in all the history leading up to the 2020 election, and it doesn't bear out in these numbers. 11 million people just vanished from voting. How's that?
Certainly interesting. I guess we'll have to see what comes of it.
But you see, doesn't that have huge implications?
Yeah, I suppose it does.
And that's why I don't know if Kari Lake's going to end up succeeding or failing or whatever she's going to do. But that rumor is very interesting because that is the same kind of stuff that we saw last time. And where did these ghost votes come from? You see what I'm saying? Just at a certain hour of the night, at just a random minute, it just updates and doubles the number of votes that are still left to be counted. Where did they come from?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it would have been nice to have resolved it in 2020, 2021.
Well, I'm just saying, at least it was too big to rig this time. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? But it still seems like there's some funny business that needs to be accounted for. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. Is there anything that you want to say? I feel like the Energizer Bunny over here.
I mean, there's only one other little quip or comment I did want to make. Another one of Kamala's campaign slogans, spurred on by Tim Walz's wife, was to turn the page.
Oh, yeah, turn the
well,
page.
we sure did. We turned the page on them.
Yeah. Well, you almost helped me. Do you have something else you want to
Nope.
say? Well, you almost helped me lead into my next point
Go for it.
because I was going to talk about her campaign and how supposedly she raised $1 billion. She outspent Trump by 3 times.
Right.
And supposedly they're $20 million in debt.
Holy cow. That's a lot.
And get this. You won't believe this. This kind of burned my britches when I first heard it. Trump has proposed, in the name of unity, that the Republican National Convention help the RNC pay off their debts.
You mean the DNC? Help the
Yes,
DNC?
so you know what I mean. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
The people know what I mean. Everybody knows what I mean. Yes. But the Republican Party is going to pay off the Democratic Party's $20 million in debts.
I mean, it seems a little silly, but I suppose I don't really care.
Well,
I didn't give them money, as long as it's not taxpayer money.
I feel 2 different ways. I'm of 2 minds on it. First of all, my natural instinct is to just say that is crazy. Like I said, it burns my britches, man. Like I can't believe. Like I think they should reap what they sow.
Right.
They should have to eat this $20 million deficit somehow.
Right.
Figure it out. Maybe it'll set them back
Sure.
like they deserve and not be able to just be a thorn in the Republican sides going forward and maybe really have to do some introspection and rebuilding on their party.
Right.
I mean, it almost seems asinine to throw good money after bad, to use an idiom. And whatever. But I guess on the other side, it is the Christian thing to do. The Lord says something about turning the other cheek. You know, if somebody strikes you, present the other one to him and blah, 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 whatever. I mean, it would be good for the country, I suppose, but almost like a comment I made to you earlier, I don't think it's going to land with their voters. Their voters are still lost.
Right.
They are lost sheep.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it really makes a whole lot of sense, but like I said, it's, if it's party money that came from like donors, I certainly don't really care if they're going to just hand over $20 million. But if it's like tax dollars, I think that's a whole other thing.
No, he's talking about...
Right. That's why I figured, but...
Yeah. But I guess it's an interesting move, too. Because like I just said, them being lost sheep, that makes me think of another Bible allegory where, you know, the shepherd goes after the one who's lost and doesn't just care for the flock who stay in place, you know? So that's interesting. And yeah, he talked about how they didn't spend very much because they got a lot of what he calls like free press or some free marketing. I can't think of
all these podcasts that he went on.
Yeah, but I can't think of what the exact verbiage is that he used for that. But,
sure.
supposing they have a lot more than $20 million laying around, then if it's just a drop in the bucket and it's in the name of healing the nation and all that and whatever, I suppose it's good.
Yeah.
Just
I guess
seems
so.
crazy.
Yeah, it does. It does seem a little strange, but
I guess I could allow it. I'll allow it.
Yep. That's a good way to put it. I'll allow it.
Just crazy. Just funds them to be able to campaign against us, but
Right.
Whatever.
I mean, because next 2 years are going to come by before we know it.
I know.
It's going to be midterms.
They're going to be running Democratic candidates on our dollars.
Yeah.
What a great strategy,
Right.
but whatever.
Right, yeah. But I think the only other kind of thing I wanted to mention was, despite the fact that we won and it looks like the progressives, Democrats have got caught with their pants down, essentially, with some of their policies, they're not going away. You can bet your sweet cheeks on that. They'll probably, they'll go in hiding and come back out with a new name, like they usually do.
Well, I don't even know that they'll go into hiding because you've already seen, I don't know if you have, but there's been these attorneys generals, like the attorney general from California, and governors, like the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, and is that Letitia James? Is she the attorney general of New York?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She said something dumb, and probably Gavin Newsom. He just called for a special Senate or a special session. That's what they've been saying. Special session of the Congress or whatever, the California congressional people. And they've prepared all this stuff. They've been saying, we're going to stand up to Trump. They're the new resistance, or
well,
whatever.
I mean, you're really just making my ultimate point even stronger is that, we might have just won pretty handily, but we can't stop now or give up on all of our values that we believe in and pushing forward on those.
Well, absolutely not. We got to keep the ball rolling.
That's
and
right.
I think Trump is already ready to go. I mean, I think he's got, I don't know. I think his first 100 days is probably going to be 300 days worth of work.
Right.
I bet you. I mean,
Right.
seriously, he's got 2 months. He's already got like 72, 71. I don't know what it is as of today.
Right.
But he's got essentially 2 months or more, almost 3, to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like he's already working the phones, working his staff, working, his writers, working, you know what I mean? He's, seems like he's really knows what he's going to do this time around.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's exciting. Great time to be alive.
Oh, yeah.
And
Exactly.
I can't
We
wait.
definitely have the momentum behind us.
But yeah, there's going to be some huge thorns. I mean, know that Shifty Schiff got voted back in again. That turd. I was really hoping that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I just despise him. I mean,
Right.
I won't say any more than that, but I do. I just despise that man.
Well, I mean, there's a comment I made to you the other day that I thought was a pretty good one that I was hoping to be able to repeat, is that for all the people like Tulsi Gabbard who switched over to being a Republican, but because of this movement and all the policies that Trump and people who follow and support him support, we hopefully won't let them down, make them want to go back to being independents or Democrats. We want them to be able to stick with us.
Well, absolutely.
Keep our numbers strong.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that you should say that because that brings up another thing that I've heard post-election is, a lot of people have been complaining, like some of these leftist YouTuber types have had mass dumpings of their subscribers and also of their paid subscribers.
Interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of them, there was this guy named Dave Pacman. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was complaining. He's got this soundbite that's going viral because he said he woke up the next day and they were hemorrhaging accounts, and he called his buddies who like also are lefty YouTubers, and he listed like 7 or 8 names of other lefty YouTubers that he called or texted. I should say texted because that's what he said. But he said that they were all experiencing that. I mean, like thousands, 5,000 at a time subscribers, and also paid subscribers. And he even details that. He's like, well, at first I thought, okay, if it's just YouTube, you know, sometimes they purge accounts or whatever. But then he's like, I'm looking at my other stuff, and no, even the paid subscribers, everything's gone down.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's across like basically the whole industry, if you will, of leftist, what we would call propaganda, what we know to be propaganda. And they've all just disappeared. I mean, they're a portion of their subscribership has just disappeared from them. And I think that's amazing to see. And there's been a lot of speculation on that. Some of my favorite speculation on that is that they were like just bot accounts, meaning B-O-T, you know, bot
like
accounts.
Robot,
but also bot accounts that, you know, were sort of paid for by entities, let's say, or groups that were trying to make it seem like there's more support for these concepts and these outlets and these, you know what I mean, these talking heads, if you will, than what actually exists, like sort of as a tactic, as a strategy for, you know, making certain movements and ideas seem more popular than what they really are. You know, you just sort of have these dummy accounts. And there's a theory that a lot of those have just, they can't afford them anymore. They're not going to pay for them anymore because there's no point now that they've lost the election. But then obviously there's the theory that a lot of people have just woken up and are looking for, they feel lied to, and they want to look at other, you know, sources of information now to sort of help them understand what just happened. And they don't want to pay to hear the same old news that they've always heard.
Well, also, and not that I'm saying this is related to those specific accounts, but I heard recently the FCC passed, I believe it was the FCC, one of those administrative commissions, passed rules that regulate like fake subscriberships, particularly if like the channel has like sponsors on their shows. So that's also going to start affecting things like that too. So I thought that's pretty interesting that you brought that story up.
Well, it is interesting, but I also said, I don't remember at what point, if it was on our last episode or not, but I had talked about how I had seen in the days leading up to the election a huge, like, coming out of the woodwork of these liberal personalities on like YouTube and YouTube Live saying all this, not even necessarily pro-Kamala stuff, but just anti-Trump stuff. And that I had even tried to listen to some of them. I had tried to interact with some of them, and I accused one guy. Do you remember this story? I know I said it on a recording. I even accused one guy. I said, "Are you being paid to say this?" And he like gave it a double take, but he didn't answer. But I saw him, his eyes almost like lit up, like, you know, his eyes almost like bugged for a minute. Like, what? You know, like, how does he know that sort of thing? You know what I mean? And now they're all gone. I haven't seen any of these dumb liberal accounts on my YouTube or in my YouTube lives. I think they were just being funded as a last-ditch effort to flood the airwaves, so to speak. You know what I mean? But I think that's part of why they lost, is because it's like I said at the time that I was experiencing those. They were not pro-Kamala. They were just anti-Trump. I don't think they were effective at all. She doesn't have good messaging. She didn't know who she was trying to connect with.
Right.
She didn't know what to say. She had nothing.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that was a common thing from some people. Like a lot of people spoke super positively of Kamala, but they sure did tell you all the bad things about dictator Hitler-esque Donald Trump.
Yeah. He's going to take your rights away.
Yeah.
He's going to put you back in chains. He's going to deport you. He's going to separate you from your children. He's going to... all that stuff. All that stuff they always say.
Right. Well, I guess it's good to see... Well, I mean, I was about to say it's good to see it start to go away, but it's not going to go away, as I already said. I mean...
No, some of them have just doubled down on their stupidity.
All right.
They say, Gino, Trump outperformed like everybody. This is like a huge historical win.
Yeah.
And this is like the comeback that, you know, some people prayed for, but nobody expected.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
yep.
Hang on, where was I going with this? What had you just said prior?
We were talking about how like a lot of people spoke negatively of Trump, but hardly ever positively about Kamala, and all these accounts going away and doubling down. You said people are doubling down. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Despite this huge win, okay, there we go. Thank you very much. That gets me back. Yeah. Despite the fact that he outperformed himself, I'll say it that way, with every demographic except white college-educated women. That's the only place where he didn't make up ground. Yet still, some people in the media, some of these horrible people, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I just want to say it, but some of these people like on The View who just say the same stuff, you know? And that's why I'm saying doubling down. I mean, they've said the same stuff for 8 years. Now they're going to do it again.
Well, one of the things that particularly makes, maybe not particularly, but that stands out about The View anyway, is it's what Joe Rogan basically started his interview with Trump with in 2015 or 14, somewhere around there, before he was running for president, or after he announced, before they thought he had an actual chance. Was Whoopi Goldberg giving him a big old hug. He was welcomed on The View. They were friends with him.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah. So and they're just still sticking with their hysteria.
Yes.
That they know.
Well, what kills me is
not true.
they're blaming the electorate though. Some of them, and they're saying that it was just misogyny. That's their new thing. It's because she was a woman. And they've dropped the racist stuff and everything now. Now it's just pure misogyny.
I feel like we've sort of talked about this before, that this would be one of their excuses for losing.
But it's just crazy.
It is.
It's absolutely crazy. And they're saying that these people along the Hispanic Americans along the border who voted for, things like border policy and voted on issues like that. No, they're just misogynists.
Right. Yeah. I don't even know how to react to stuff like that.
They voted to deport their own people.
Yeah.
Because all Hispanics are illegals, right? All the Hispanic people in this country are illegal immigrants.
That's how
what
they
is
treat
wrong
them.
with the Democrats?
Yeah.
They
Right?
don't understand how a person could vote for a Hispanic person in America could vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
Well, wake up and smell the tortillas.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what you get for putting people in their boxes.
Yep. They're just fools.
Right?
I just can't believe how foolish, though. I mean, and to get paid I truly don't understand. Why would somebody keep paying some of these voices to just say this? Okay, we're going to renew your contract. You do such a good job when you say this. You just keep beating that drum. We love to dance to it. Go on.
Our ratings keep shooting through the roof, whooping whenever you come on here and say all that ridiculous stuff.
They love when you say Donald Trump is a fascist. If you could say that it says in your contract now, because the audience loves it so much, if you could hit fascist 20 times a week.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You specifically. You have to do it 20 times a week. Joy Behar, they don't like her when she says it as much, but she does have to say it 3 times a week.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but at least it makes me believe that if they keep paying these people, that obviously the higher ups believe it too, or else why would they? Because if the higher ups didn't believe what they were saying, why would they allow it to just keep going on and going on?
I'm just glad that, at least for the informed amongst us,
yes,
it just proves that it is what it is. It's pure propaganda.
Right.
It literally is just pure propaganda.
Right.
Drivel. Not worth your time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised how much it gets talked about, The View.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for all the flaws that modern times brings us, I mean, I'm glad we're living in them, because people can access information anywhere and everywhere they want, pretty much. And I think had this same exact race been run even 20 years ago, I think Trump would have had a harder time winning. Because, the old media, like the networks, the ones that host shows like The View, had more power and control over the information before the internet really blew up.
Well, we've also seen how it can be controlled, though, too.
Yeah.
Like Twitter and YouTube, and how they censor things. And
Right, that's true. I mean, there are at least more options.
I think it's a double-edged sword, though. That's what I was trying to say, is information in the modern times. I mean, I guess it's always been that way. But when you talk about access, I just know, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. And I love it, too. I just know it's a double-edged sword, because I almost went into library science. I think that I'm very good at research. But to research anything today, I mean, I can give you an example from this race. That candidate who ran for Senate in Nevada, who was I can't tell you his name right.
Sam Brown.
Sam Brown. Yes, absolutely. When I went to look him up, the first thing that popped up on Google was his running mate, or his opposition, whatever her name was. She pops up first. Yeah. And I'm like, that is just blatant. I mean, it's been blatant for years and years and years and years and years and years. But I just think it's horrible how the internet is today. You can search for specifically what you want, and they're going to give you something else.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there definitely are problems with it, but, I mean, like I said, at least in my opinion, I don't think it would have been quite the same race 20 years ago or more.
No, I get that. And, if you're smart and you have your wits about you, you can get information. But it's just sad how much sifting you have to do. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, I guess the only other bit of kind of news related to the election in the last days of the Biden-Harris administration that I heard, I don't know how valid it is. It could be just a rumor, but they might try to replace Sotomayor on the court before
I heard
time
that.
runs out.
I heard that theory, but that's not going to happen. She's said multiple times now. She's been asked. She's not going to do it. She's not going to do it.
Right.
And the other thing, have you heard this one?
Well, I mean, I was just going to add to that I don't think it'd really matter anyway. It's not like they're just switching a liberal for a liberal. So
well, plus that's kind of been pointed out. Some people have said, she's great for caucusing for the. Well, I shouldn't say caucusing. that doesn't make sense, but she's great for representing the interests that they care about, the liberals.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's not that she's not effective or anything. She's only
Sure.
70. She's still in good health.
Oh, yeah.
She still gets around. She speaks. She does things. She's active. She's not sedentary in her lifestyle necessarily. I mean, she's not skinny. She's not super skinny or anything, but she's not a big blubbery obese person either, and she gets around and is active. And it's like you said, there's really no reason. But also, here's another thing. How dumb are they? Okay? How dumb are they? Because it could really backfire too. You think about how things are right now. It's 50-50. Sure, they could get their 51, but I don't think they could for a Supreme Court. You're not going to do that for a Supreme Court appointment. They have to get 60 votes.
Right, within the next 70 days.
They're not going to get their 60 votes.
Right, and they're about to be out of session
they're
for a couple weeks.
They're not going to do all of this.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
No way, Jose. And what if it backfired and they got Sotomayor to step down and there's a liberal vacancy for Trump to follow?
Yep.
Plus, somewhere in this 4-year period, Clarence Thomas is going to step down. So Trump is going to get to replace Clarence Thomas with a much younger person. So imagine if it backfired on him. And that's how dumb they are.
Yeah.
They're so desperate to just give her some honorary position or title or something like that. But listen, here's the other one. This is how desperate they are. Did you not hear this one? Some people are calling for Biden to step down within the next 30 days and make her the honorary president for approximately 50.
What would that do?
Nothing.
I mean, some people already believe she's part
is
running
the president.
things. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, what's...
It just would be in name only for 40 days. We had a woman president.
Whoa.
What an interesting blip for the history books, folks.
That's not going to be overshadowed by the second president to have served 2 non-consecutive terms. I mean, yeah, that's right. Just like Grover Cleveland.
But just how ridiculous. And they're just so... I mean, can I just say it? I think they are so stupid.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm talking about these people, the ones who call for such things, because some of them have opened their eyes and are looking for information and are looking within, and some people are saying the right thing,
right. Even Bernie Sanders has criticized the fact that the party didn't pay attention to the working class.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi hated that. I don't know if you heard her soundbite, but she's got her own soundbite saying, well, I have a lot of respect for Bernie Sanders, but he is dead wrong when he talks about the Democratic Party and what they've blah, blah, blah. So I'm paraphrasing, but she's got her own soundbite out.
I mean, she would say that.
I mean, I feel like I could talk all day. There's been so much going on, and I have watched so much. I just feel almost like the first time. I mean, it took me a little bit in Trump's first term for my eyes to be opened and see what good he was doing, and to really come on board. But this time, I feel it right now. I mean, it's like day 4, in my opinion, since he's president-elect.
Right.
And I feel so much energy. So much is going on. I'm trying to watch everybody, listen to everything. I love hearing everybody's commentary and how everybody's in a good mood and everybody, you know what I mean, is just, I just feel it, and I'm watching everybody and listening to everything and trying to read every headline that I can. And it's like the last time I did this with Trump. I wanted to follow his every move, and I love the man. I love him. I can't wait for this.
Yep. I mean, for all of his flaws, he's certainly an amazing person for sure.
Well, he's like the Energizer Bunny. That's why he's got me feeling like the Energizer Bunny.
Yep. I mean, I said this kind of jokingly. I think it was... I don't know if we were doing it during our little live stream or if we were afterwards when we were hanging out, but he's like Mr. America.
Yes.
He is Mr. America. He's almost what you'd picture.
He's like an action hero or action figure.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm definitely pretty excited too for the next 4 years and beyond. So hopefully the momentum keeps going in the right direction.
Absolutely. And there already have been good calls to action, like you were talking about. And I'd love to see it. I'd love to see like a spiritual revival
Yes.
sweep this nation. And
Yeah.
I'd love to see people get involved. Like right now, there have been calls to action. I don't know exactly by who, don't quote me, but for people to get involved with this. Oh, here's something we didn't get into, but the Senate's been trying to backstab Trump already. Mitch McConnell called for snap elections to try to choose the next leader. And a lot of people are saying that Rick Scott's like the best and really the only choice to work with Trump. And so people have said, if you feel that you should get involved or you feel passionately about it, to reach out to your senators, that they'll vote, your Republican senators, I suppose, that they'll vote for Rick Scott, to let it be known that you want them to vote for Rick Scott, or whatever. So
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to call anybody. I don't know, but if you feel so moved, I mean,
Right.
but it'd be good. And I think I said it that night that we were live, that people should get involved and keep up this momentum. And the best example I have, I'll just end with this. I mean, I'm totally willing to wrap up. I don't want to keep going all night, but it's just a great example. Sherrod Brown here in Ohio, he was Democrat for like 4 cycles or something.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. So maybe 3 or 4, but that's 18 to 24 years.
Right.
So certain populations, certain segments of the population in Sherrod Brown's district, or whatever, wherever he represents, they've not really had good Republican leadership for a long time. You know what I mean? They've struggled under Sherrod Brown. Somebody has. I know there's somebody out there who just has struggled
Right, or
under
else he
Sherrod
wouldn't
Brown.
be on his way out the door.
So think of this. I mean, don't just take it for granted, but now you can call up your senator, what's his name, Moreno.
Yeah, Bernie Moreno.
And let your voice be heard, get the help you've needed, get things passed, and point out the flaws in the laws that Sherrod Brown had supported and helped pass and promulgated. You know what I mean? Get involved. Be proactive now.
Right.
That's what I'd love to see. Just people just totally.
Right. And you can remind them why you chose not to vote for Sherrod Brown if you didn't.
Exactly. And we have to be ready, like you've sort of alluded to, but not said in these words, but we've got to get ready for 2022. He's going to need help. So we've got to be ready to know who we're going to send in, who we're going to vote for next time, in 26. 26. What did I say?
22.
Sorry.
That's the last one.
I meant the 2 years from now.
Yeah.
That's where what my brain was doing.
Yeah.
2026. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to need help, and to keep the red train flowing and send in more red candidates.
Right. Exactly.
So, anyway, there's my soapbox about that.
I mean, well, I'm definitely excited too. I'm ready for it. I think it's gonna be great. I mean, I'm sure it's not gonna be perfect smooth sailing just because Trump won.
Well, humans are humans.
Exactly.
Like we've talked about, he's gonna face resistance.
Exactly. I mean, even with Trump himself, I'm sure he's still gonna do some things, or maybe still say stuff that's
fumble here or there.
Right? Yeah, that you might not really like too much, but a lot of people voted for him not because of those things, but because of the policies, and that's what we gotta.
Well, I know what you mean, because like that thing with the bailing out the Democrats. I mean, that just blows my mind. But
yeah, exactly.
I guess it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, could be.
I don't know.
Could be. But anyway, listeners, if you enjoyed this great conversation, please be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. You can find us on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and many other major podcast listening apps. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search at Conservative Conversations 92. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to hear an extra segment that actually happened before or in the beginning of this episode, become a paid subscriber through our podcast host, Red Circle. You can find links in the description and show notes.
That's right. We hope you might share us with a friend or family member or something like that, and encourage them to become paid subscribers like you are, so that they have access to the same bonus and sort of extra material that we put out. So anyway, yeah, we hope you would do that. And as always, we thank you for listening.